On this week's episode, we talk about Occupy Raw and Daniel Bryan's role at Wrestlemania, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, Zack Ryder's Last Resort, the Attitude Era versus Now, and Buff Bagwell. All of this and more now on Byte That. Hello everybody and welcome to the 29th episode of Byte That, the somewhat maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which is the world of professional wrestling. My name is Juan Velas Court. I come all the way from San Juan, Puerto Rico. The time zones have aligned, which means that me and Ryan are together now. It's like we're together, right, man?
Woo. I love it.
Keith.
We can deal with things an hour earlier.
Yeah, this is different.
I'm still the early bird. Oh.
Yeah, but you guys doing good? How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. It's been a good weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, even though I need that energy, but I know there's somebody here that can give us that energy. Because Keith, you went somewhere. You went somewhere. You're from.
Did I?
Yeah. Where was it?
Did I go on vacation?
Hawaii?
I went to what we call the MTS Center this Friday, and I got to witness a WWE house show live.
Oh.
It was great. Oh.
And how was that experience? I know something happened. Like somebody just walked by. Who was that? Was it Jillian Hall?
Oh, yeah. So I don't know if y'all listening to podcast land have ever experienced this, but when the Shield walks by you, it's all right to get an erection. That's what I learned this Friday. It's okay. It's okay because me and my group had the aisle seats, and the Shield went down, did their entrance right beside us, and that's cool as hell. You don't realize how much product/water they put in their hair until you see it right beside you. It's kind of amazing.
And how does that feel? Because I've always been curious. It's the same thing in when we watch The Undertaker's entrance. It's one thing to just look at the Shield's entrance, but it's a completely different thing. I can imagine where you're just watching them actually walk down.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of mesmerizing, but it all happens so fast because they're just walking by that it's one of those moments that's like, holy crap, this is happening, and then it's over.
So overall, did you enjoy the house show? Was there anything that really stood out?
It was a really good house show, yeah. There's the match of the night was the Shield versus the Wyatts. Understandably so. We got to see 2 Superman punches that night. There was Superman all up in that he's. Surprisingly, Dolph Ziggler and The Miz had the second best match of the night. They went 25 minutes. They were playing to the crowd. It was a ton of fun. The main event was a cage match between Daniel Bryan and Kane. It almost felt like they were kind of phoning in with that match. That was probably Daniel Bryan's 5th or 6th match of the week, so it's kind of understandable from that respect. But yeah, it was a good event. Batista got into a fight with a local radio personality,
right.
A fight in air quotes. Yeah, it was interesting.
So at least you got your money's worth.
I would say I got my money's worth.
It's been a long time since I've had a house show down here, but hopefully we will. But before we go on any further, we do want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast. Remember, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a lot of stuff headed this way. This very Friday, as a matter of fact, we start our top 10 WrestleMania moments countdown, which is going to be 4 videos heading all the way up to WrestleMania, where we talk about our top 10 WrestleMania moments, about a lot of great stuff. We are going to be reviewing WrestleMania 10, WrestleMania 20. You can check out all those things on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. We got @ByteThatCast. We tweet during Raw. We tweet during NXT. Whenever we're watching wrestling, always having a good time there. And check out iTunes and Stitcher. Just search Byte That. Byte That. Absolutely, my friend. And you know what? What we usually do at the end of the show, we're going to be doing right now because we have a packed show. So actually jumping into a viewer question, and by viewer, I actually mean listener. This is audio. So we have a question.
You know what? I'm going to say that he's a friend of the show at this point. Really.
He's graduated to that level.
And apparently he's immune to radiation. Oh, my joke just getting his name is... Come on, really? Well,
I didn't put it together.
Yeah, no. Well, in any case, Roach, we love you. We are talking about fan of the show, Roach McPoach. He had a pretty good question that basically has to do with about 80% of what we're going to be talking during this episode. And he asks, if the main event of WrestleMania goes as planned, what are you guys expecting from that match? Keep up the good work. And thank you, my friend. Now, but without getting into Raw directly, a lot of things happened. Obviously, that we will be talking about regarding Occupy Raw, regarding D-Bride, Triple H. But now we have a cemented main event with Randy Orton taking on Batista. We have Bray Wyatt taking on John Cena. We have Triple H taking on Dana Bryan with a pretty good stipulation that we'll get to. But just having said that, what are you expecting from the main event? Are you expecting just to get the happy-go-lucky main event where everybody's chanting yes? Or are we still going to keep seeing this just get dragged out?
I think that they're setting up for that moment that we've been talking about for weeks at this point. Hell, even months. That whole WrestleMania closes, D-Bry wins the title, and it's all happy-go-lucky. It's like, in a weird way, it's kind of like the Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero thing from WrestleMania 20, just with a single man.
See, I believe Roach McPoach asked this question before Raw this week, so it's really drastically changed. Because I think originally his intent of this question was, what were we expecting from the Randy Orton-Batista match as a standalone heel versus heel match? And I think it's very different from what we're expecting now that things have been shed light on at Monday Night Raw. Previously, I think it wouldn't have even been the main event, because that's just not how you end a show with the crowd completely crapping on everything. And we talked about last week that we think Daniel Bryan, Triple H would have ended the show. But what am I expecting now that things have changed? Exactly what you said, Keith. Hopefully we get that, that expected ending of yes chants throughout the entire arena. Even though it's a predictable, air quotes here, predictable ending to WrestleMania, I think this is one that a lot of people can get on board with.
Even though it's predictable, is it a bad thing though? I mean, I think this is a situation where predictable works.
Yeah, exactly, because what have we been talking about, and pretty much everybody, Reddit, Twitter, that we just want that to happen. We want to have that fan moment where it's like, finally, we are getting that. It's not about the unexpected. On the contrary, we keep getting the unexpected, which for the longest time is, we thought we were finally going to get to see Dana Bryan win a championship, but no, it gets dragged out. So now I think it should be fully expected. I mean, with the stipulation from the match, just before we get into the Occupy Raw thing, it's expected to happen in this particular order, because I just want to ask you guys quickly, do you see any other scenario than the obvious one where Dana Bryan ends up in the triple threat?
Not with the triple threat. I don't think that there's a chance in hell that Triple H wins that match with Daniel Bryan. I think that would just be a firestorm and just terrible. I think there's a chance that people just might shit on the rest of WrestleMania at that point. I can see a scenario where Daniel Bryan doesn't win at WrestleMania. He goes on to the main event. Something with the whole Evolution tie-in where maybe Batista and Orton screw over Bryan for Triple H. One of them win the title, and then they keep moving forward with the quote-unquote slow burn.
See, last week we talked about how it would be a surprise to me if Triple H was a stepping stone at WrestleMania. So this did come as a big surprise that they actually went this route, because it makes Bryan versus Triple H very predictable. At least we hope that it's very predictable, because what a way to just suck the life out of WrestleMania if Daniel Bryan just loses that match and just crushes everybody's hopes and dreams.
See, even though I wasn't in the podcast last week, I listened to you guys, and it was funny because watching Raw, I was like, everything that Ryan said wouldn't happen, happened, which is what you mentioned. Triple H is going to be a stepping stone. Shows how much I know. Exactly, Ryan. What the hell is wrong with you? You call yourself a wrestling fan, boy? No, but it happened, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Why? Because I get to just enjoy the match. Because as Raw progressed, that was what came to my head. I'm like, I actually give a shit about these matches, and I don't mind that they have predictable outcomes because we've already mentioned before, WrestleMania is sort of the happy show. It's the show where, the good guys get to come out on top, and it's the first time in a while where for me the good guys are guys that I'm actually rooting for because I actually am looking forward to John Cena taking on Bray Wyatt, and I'm most certainly looking forward to Daniel Bryan just shining like the damn star he is.
No, I think you 100% nailed it because we had discussed earlier about previous WrestleManias and how we were saying they feel like they were more geared towards the mainstream audience or people who don't watch wrestling as much. It was more for mass appeal than to appeal to the hardcore fans. But I think this year it looks like they're really hitting a good sort of happy medium where everybody is sort of getting what they want. And in the end, even though you're saying, like we were discussing, that Daniel Bryan versus Triple H may end up being very predictable, like Keith mentioned, the final match, the triple threat, assuming that happens, is still very much up in the air. That's no guarantee that Bryan's going to win that, because they could, sort of take one victory for Bryan over Triple H, but then sort of extend the feud out with maybe a Batista to a SummerSlam match. So they could still string us along. Don't you worry about that. They could keep it going.
Mm-hmm. To go back to your point about them kind of catering more to the hardcore wrestling fan, do you think that the WWE Network is to thank for that? Because now they don't really have to cater to the mainstream audience all that much, because now their pay-per-view buys are their pay-per-view buys. And for the most part, that hardcore wrestling fan is going to be the one subscribed to the WWE Network, right? So maybe this ushers in an era where they kind of cater more to us.
I think the WWE Network as a whole is going to change wrestling for WWE for the better. I think everybody else, I'm including TNA and independent wrestling, I think they're going to take a huge hit from this because WWE is at the perfect opportunity where they can cater to everybody. They can officially have their audience be everybody. NXT that can be the wrestling show. Raw can be the lengthy show. SmackDown can be the lighter show, and then on Raw you get other stuff. Right now we're getting live main events. I mean, of course, it's to try out the network for the WrestleMania 30 stream, but it gives them a lot more room for just testing different things out. And I certainly think that in this WrestleMania, and especially next year's, once we've had a year of the network, we will see that really progress. Now, before we go on any further, because we're talking about this, we got to bring it up. And it's, of course, Occupy Raw. I'm just going to give my little thoughts first. The moment that Dana Bryan said Occupy Raw, I was like, ugh. There was a Reddit post last week talking about it. I've mentioned it. I love Dana Bryan, but I think his acting really isn't all that great. That, not to say that's a bad thing, because he's sort of himself, and that's great, but there's certain moments where it's like you need a little juice. You need that little push.
You can tell where the script is when Daniel Bryan talks.
Yeah, and guys like John Cena, if something isn't working, they will change it. But with D-Bry, he says it the exact same way. It's almost like they told him to say something, but the crowd's not reacting, but he still does it. And you can feel that sort of interference where something's not happening right now. I don't know. But that being said, that segment blew me away. I don't think anybody... Did you guys expect that segment to go as well as it did?
So I think the segment... It didn't exactly sell me right away. I was a little kind of skeptical. It seemed very manufactured when they brought all the fans in the ring, because, they very much seemed just like actors and whatnot. It wasn't until Triple H came out and he cut that promo where he's talking about how he was protecting Bryan. I thought that was something I didn't really hear a lot of people discussing, but I actually thought that was really good. And basically, it picked up at the end, once we actually knew we were getting that WrestleMania match, that's what really sold it.
I don't think it was just Triple H that did it. I think it was Stephanie McMahon more than Triple H that really sold that segment. Like, she basically turned into a damn fire-breathing dragon at one point there. She was kind of that old, like, bitchy Steph from back in the day that everybody hated. It was like some weird character evolution that happened during that segment. I'm just going to point out something.
Maybe I'm just overthinking this. But that was, first of all, that was a very long segment. I did not expect that to be as long as it was. I don't know how long it was, but I mean, there was a commercial break and it just kept going on. It was 2 segments long. And to me, that segment was a way to summarize everything that's been happening. Because think about it, it started off very slow. Dana Bryan by himself talking. It was very reminiscent of what happened post SummerSlam. Triple H, you screwed me over. Triple H coming out to explain himself. It was like deja vu. When the whole Occupy thing had the combination of everything, they kept just mentioning stuff that's happened. Stephanie McMahon kept getting angrier, and then the fans were there. Everybody was there. The whole security saying, "Ah." So instead of getting the Shield, who was at one point the people that were there to stop that, now Triple H and Stephanie had nobody. So it became very personal. And I appreciated that because at first I didn't care about the segment. I thought, honestly, it made me go from to holy crap because both Bryan and Stephanie McMahon for me, at first, I do want to clarify, were very underwhelming and seemed kind of forced. Triple H was knocking it out of the park. The guy's a freaking just... He deserves to be where he is right now. That's all I got to say about that. But there was just that one point where you're just, damn, they're really going all out with this, especially after we found out that it's... I'm just going to ask quickly, how did you feel, first of all, when he got what he wanted, part one? Just a part one with getting the match against Triple H. How were you there immediately at that moment?
So with the part when he got his first demand, it was just sort of like, yeah, that's what we expected, but it's nice to have a conclusion. Yeah, because obviously Triple H had been reluctant for several weeks, so it was nice to finally have Triple H say, yes, we're on for WrestleMania.
Now, the moment that Dana Bryan said, but that's not all we want.
That's the exact moment that everything turned up to 11. It turned from, yeah, okay, that makes sense, to, oh my god, this is actually happening. Holy crap. And then, WrestleMania, like, I'm way more, in that 30-second span, I am way more excited for WrestleMania than I was since January, basically.
Exactly, that one sentence turned WrestleMania completely around. Now it's like everybody is pumped for WrestleMania because finally it seems like we're getting what we want.
Exactly, because I think that not just Smarks, because a lot of times the wrestlers will play it off to Smarks, but even Mick Foley, Chris Jericho, we are talking guys within the industry themselves where everybody at one point just became an equal. Everybody was equally as excited and as happy to finally find out that, yes, he's getting his opportunity, and yes, he's actually going to main event WrestleMania. And that was awesome.
And yes.
Yes.
Because we needed a third yes.
Also, fun little fact, Daniel Bryan is the only man in history now to win the Royal Rumble via democracy.
Oh. Interesting. Although it's not the first
screw you too.
although it's not the first time that we've had a non-Rumble winner be added to a match featuring the winner of the Rumble. It was Ray. Crap.
Randy.
Well, I mean, it was Shawn Michaels 10 years ago would technically be the first time.
Was it
the main event of WrestleMania? It was Chris Benoit won the Rumble, and then Shawn Michaels got added to the match with Triple H. So technically that's the first time, but it wasn't via democracy.
And yeah, didn't Randy Orton get added to that triple threat match with Rey Mysterio, or somebody else got added? I think it was Orton.
But this is different. Like that they were added just for the sake of having another person in the match. I think that Daniel Bryan is in this match because everybody wants Daniel Bryan to be in that WrestleMania main event.
Yeah, I think that's the $1 million question right now. How much of the fan pissed offness, I'm not even going to say interaction, had to do with the fact that Daniel Bryan's been added to this match? Let's be honest here. This is where we put on the tinfoil hat, Keith.
I would have to say virtually 100%, because let's think about this. If Batista had come back and to all this fanfare, everybody loved him, he won the Rumble, everyone was so happy that he won the Rumble, we would be seeing Randy Orton versus Batista as the main event, no questions asked. It was because of the descent for Batista and the popularity of Bryan that they had to do this. They had to turn Batista heel, and then thus with a heel versus heel match as your last match of WrestleMania, That's a disaster. So they had to turn to the guy that has all the momentum in the world to be inserted into that match. So I think it's 100% fan influence. If we had just gone the exact way that they wanted us to go, like who they want us to like, Daniel Bryan would not be in this match. He'd be facing Sheamus if Punk didn't leave. In a way, Punk is sort of a savior to Daniel Bryan in that light.
Mm-hmm. Like, with all the talk about, like, Hijack Raw and Occupy Raw and stuff lately, really what the fans did at the Royal Rumble and hijacked it is probably a big reason why Daniel Bryan's in that main event. That's kind of where this all started from. Like, everybody just pissed about the Royal Rumble, chanting Daniel Bryan the entire time, and maybe this is the end result of that.
They couldn't have done it without Rey Mysterio either.
Yeah, thank you, Ray.
He's the
Booyaka.
unsung hero.
Absolutely. Although there's also the other side of the coin. I think it's less likely. But even fan interaction or not, it's still like, holy crap. I mean, you spoke about this quite a bit last week, which is what I brought up earlier, and that Triple H is going to be a stepping stone. I mean, think about that. The guy that has wrestled The Undertaker at WrestleMania multiple times, we are going up to that level. And that guy is willing to take the loss and then put that man in the main event of WrestleMania and possibly win. That to me almost has more importance than the fact that Dana may win the championship not or not itself.
Mm-hmm. One might say Triple H is doing what's best for business. But yeah, no, like, do you think that's almost like a kind of knock against CM Punk in a weird little way? Like, this could have been you, Punk, ha 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 ha, you could have made this main event if you would have stayed and had that match, but now Daniel Bryan's getting your opportunity.
I think the circumstances are completely different, though, because CM Punk probably just would have lost, because he did not have the momentum that Bryan has. And I know we all talk like it's almost a shoo-in that Bryan's gonna win, but there's still in the back of my mind, and you all have it there's still that doubt. There's still that feeling that Triple H could do it, just like he did to Booker T and countless others. There's still that thing in the back of your mind where Triple H is gonna win. And so even though it has this obvious stipulation that makes it seem like Bryan could win this for sure, the fact that Triple H has that reputation at least keeps this exciting.
See, I disagree. I don't think that there's a chance that Triple H will win. I think it's de facto Bryan's going to win that match against Triple H, but I can't shake the feeling that something's going to happen at the end of that match or before the main event that's going to lead to Bryan getting screwed over by Triple H in some aspect.
I'm just going to point out, the last time we had a host in WrestleMania, a match was restarted, and I think we're going to get that. Triple H is going to win his match. I know this isn't necessarily a WrestleMania prediction show, but I mean, this is such a hot topic, I sort of got to bring it up right now. I think Triple H is going to figure out a cheap way to win. Hulk Hogan's going to come out, put over Daniel Bryan in WrestleMania after just losing. He's going to freaking knee Triple H in the face. The people are going to go freaking insane because they just thought, holy crap, 18 seconds all over again. And it makes sense because think about it. This is going all the way back to D-Bry's WrestleMania career. You know, the 18 seconds. People are like, holy crap, we're pumped for his WrestleMania match, and he loses. Then Hulk Hogan comes out. He's over. Daniel Bryan's over. Triple H is hated. It's WrestleMania. That would be an amazing moment. I don't know if it'll happen, but holy shit, that would be great.
I agree with what you said, but I think that gets applied to the main event, because that way they can end WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan having the big feel-good moment, like Triple H, Randy Orton, Batista screw Bryan out of it, Hogan comes out, restarts the match, then they end it with like Hulk Hogan and D. Bryan celebrating.
And we'll be talking about this match and everything else as we keep getting closer to WrestleMania. Learn about, the little details between the Triple H match, the John Cena match, and all that. But something that happens on a weekly basis that is absolutely confirmed, and now we have it right now, is this week's Tweet of the Week. Tweet of the Week.
That's right. It's the money part of the show. It's tweet of the week. It's the thing that you all sign up for, the thing that you love, the thing that I love. I know they don't love it, but they're the bad guy here. So this week's tweet of the week is brought to you once again by WWE Creative Humor, proving that it is my favorite Twitter account on Twitter. Now, this week's tweet of the week has to do with the immortal one himself, Hulk Hogan, and it is as follows. You have no idea how jealous Hulk Hogan is that Bray Wyatt gets a rocking chair.
That's right, Keith, and thank you for that beautiful, beautiful tweet of the week. And remember, folks, follow us on Twitter
You're welcome.
at Byte That Cast. We follow back, and while we're watching Raw or something, if we see something that's funny enough, or it gets a chuckle out of Keith, because he's the important one here, it could just be the tweet of the week. Now, I do want to sort of rewind back to Raw. Before that amazing segment, we got two announcements. One of them was, I don't even know why they made an announcement thing, but it's Undertaker coming out saying that Brock Lesnar is going to rest in peace. Breaking news. But
He got verbally eviscerated again.
oh, that is true, sir. That is true. That's about all that happened in
worst.
that entire segment. But the other announcement, I don't think, much like the Occupy Raw, I don't think anybody expected it. Hulk Hogan came out and announced a 30-man over-the-top rope battle royal in the memory of Andre the Giant. The winner would get a trophy. Now, usually on WrestleMania, this isn't the first time, or even the first time in a while, that we've gotten a battle royal. Thing is, they're usually untelevised. So now we get a live 30-man battle royal as part of WrestleMania 30. Of course, Cena comes out and announces himself to be in that. I don't know if he still will be, since then, we got the match. I don't know if people that have a singles match can also be in that. They didn't really clarify that. But that being said, what matters is we got a 30-man battle royal. Are you guys hyped for it?
If John Cena is still in it, I am so hype that it is ridiculous. I'm like Mojo Rawley levels of hype. For the simple fact of they can create a situation where Bray Wyatt can beat John Cena at WrestleMania, and John Cena can still have that moment. So Bray Wyatt beats John Cena, then John Cena still wins the Andre Memorial Cup. It's a best of both worlds situation.
I'm actually already pretty sure that Cena has removed himself from that battle royal. I think that's almost confirmed. He said he was going to. But either way, I am psyched about this battle royal because it really gives a chance for so many people that always miss the WrestleMania card to be on the show, collect that paycheck, and also, just get to actually be a part of WrestleMania, because a lot of people last year didn't get to be on the show. So I'm really happy that they're going to have this. Plus, it'll be exciting because battle royals are usually a good time and fun to watch.
Brooklyn. Psh. That means we get to see
Yeah, we
JTG.
won't get a tweet this year. We won't get an angry tweet.
Yeah, and then a squash. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, though, because it's an Andre the Giant memorial, so is it going to be low to mid-carders only, or will we be seeing bigger names to it? I mean, some guys have confirmed their participation, but who do you think is really going to win?
Right now, of all the people that I've seen in it, they've only released a few names, but Big E Langston seems like one of the bigger names that's in it. So he looks to me like the early favorite. But other than that, I'm really not sure who else is going to be in it. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any of the more bigger names that have a chance to win it.
Yeah, like now that you've completely destroyed my world and informed me that John Cena potentially pulled out, I'm crushed. I was hype and now I'm not hype anymore. I don't care.
Now there's something. Legends. There were rumors back in the day Jake the Snake wanted to be in WrestleMania. This Battle Royal opens up an opportunity for a lot of guys that may not necessarily be part of the roster, but would be pretty great to see in WrestleMania. So having said that, do you expect any surprise entries into the Battle Royal?
I'm sort of looking at it from the perspective of, a lot of the guys that are working year round. I really think unless you have maybe one or two, I really don't think you should have them. I think the guys that are working year round should get their spot at WrestleMania and not have someone like Hacksaw Jim Duggan come in and take their spot. It's just, I think it's got to go to the guys that are working all year.
But at the same time, it's a 30-man battle royal. That's a lot of spots to fill. And I mean, Jake Roberts is going to be in New Orleans that weekend anyway. He's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame the night before.
Jake Roberts is also recovering from cancer surgery right now, so I'm not exactly thinking he's going to be in it. Or I don't even know if he's even had his surgery yet, but I'm not really expecting him to have any sort of in-ring, thing going on in the show.
The thing that'll be interesting to see is if this goes anywhere. Is it just going to be insert 30-man match here? Or will we see a rivalry build up here? Will we see an old rivalry sort of refuel and then follow after WrestleMania? Because we brought it up in the past few WrestleManias have been very individualized, which is it leads up to that show, then the night after is essentially a huge reset. So I think with the way this card's actually shaping up, this is going to be the first WrestleMania in a while to me where the night after actually has a lot of stuff to follow through. I'm just hoping that the Battle Royal is also part of that process. So do you expect WWE to have any of those elements where they build up a storyline that follows?
Totally. There's like a list of guys that are like on the verge of being a very big person, like the Antonio Cesaros and the Roman Reigns. This is a way for them to have them win something of meaning and then kind of get that stepping stone going for the next year for them. So, yeah.
I see your point with, whoever wins it, they'll have some momentum. It'll help elevate a guy. But the names you actually specifically mentioned, I don't think will be in that match. I'm not expecting to see anyone pulling double duty. And it really looks like the Shield's going to have their match and Cesaro and Swagger will probably have their match. But they'll probably, the Big Show, I mean, we don't even know what he's doing. Mark Henry, they don't have matches. So they'll actually have some bigger names in there. I mean, Sheamus may even be in there as well. So we really don't know, because it looks like this card is already pretty full and those guys don't have matches yet.
But do you really not seeing anybody pulling double duty? I mean, once again, it's a 30-man battle royal. That's a lot of slots to fill. I think some people kind of have to.
It's possible. I mean, there's a lot of guys on the roster that we don't see. We forget how big it actually is. Maybe there'll be some NXT guys in there, but maybe you're right. Maybe there will be some double duty guys in there because we don't know what the tag match is going to be like, if there's even going to be one. So there could be, if it's like a multi-man tag match, we'll probably see some of them in the Battle Royal. So you could be right, but I think a lot of the bigger matches, you're not going to see them in the Battle Royal.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the big names are going to have sort of their own spotlight, but we could see, for example, that say there's a Cesaro Swagger thing, I could actually see them do double duty and then sort of continue that feud, whether it's the first match they're in or the second one. That'd be kind of nice. We were talking during Raw or something, which is like that used to be a thing back then. Some guys could be in two segments and two matches, and they would continue that storyline. So it'd be nice in WrestleMania, especially considering last year's WrestleMania had next to no backstage segments or build up. I think they really, really need to sort of make up for all of that, and now especially with the WWE Network. Now, I think we've been talking about a lot of serious stuff in the show, haven't we? I think we should just go to our hotel.
Super serial.
Keith, take this imaginary key. Take the key.
Okay.
Now, I got you a little something. So when you go into your room, you may see some stuff that you just might not be able to get enough of. And Buff Bagwell quotes. But we need to talk about this, okay? I'm sorry, but
I don't want this gift anymore.
This needs to be brought up. We are, of course, talking about the fact that at some point during the year, Ryan McNulty and Keith are going to put $4,000 each, get Buff Bagwell, and as he's interviewed for the podcast, we're going to have a great time with him. No, but talking seriously, though. So, Buff Bagwell.
Define great time, considering what came out about Buff Bagwell recently and his
came out
His
of Bagwell.
entrepreneurial, yeah, it came out of Bagwell. His entrepreneurial adventures.
Yeah, so
Define have fun.
okay, so for those that don't know what the hell we're talking about, Buff Bagwell, former WCW wrestler, very, very short-lived WWF wrestler, is on an escort. Apparently, he's one of the top two on a particular website. He was part of the American Males.
CowboysForAngels.com, I think is what it
Ryan.
is. Check it out if you're interested.
Oh, what do you do in your spare time?
Right.
Yeah,
Give me
for
your
only
credit card
$8,000. For $8,000, you could spend a whole weekend with Buff Bagwell.
And talk about WCW. Oh yeah, 'cause that's
Yep.
what you do. No, but yeah, so there's that, and then a couple of days later, we actually get wrestling-related news to him regarding him that were a little controversial. A lot of people were pissed off. I don't think Buff Bagwell was ever that big a name. You guys never really saw a lot of WCW. I did. He was part of the American Males. He was known as Marcus Bagwell. When he joined the NWO, that's when he became Buff Bagwell to sort of change his character a little bit. And his character was very outrageous. He was never the serious guy. He was a pretty decent worker, but he was never at the top of the company. I think one of the only real championship matches he got was into the WWF when they purchased WCW. And then now he was part of an interview where he talked about CM Punk, he talked about TNA, and specifically he had a couple of things to say about CM Punk which were kind of interesting and pissed a couple people off. Essentially, he said CM Punk is too small. That's why they kept him and The Rock as far apart as they could until they had to wrestle, because when you really stand The Rock against CM Punk in the ring, they just don't look like it fits.
If you go back, that's not really true at all, considering, like, there were more than once one of them went to the ring and attacked the other one. Like, I remember a couple of times where the Rock hit, or the CM Punk hit the GTS on the Rock, and I think one of them was on a SmackDown.
Keith.
So, I think
Keith.
you're wrong, Buffy.
Keith,
Yeah.
it's only the
Yes.
beginning of how far this man gets things wrong. Don't even bother to try and critique
Oh, I know.
it.
I know.
Just let it play out.
Keep going. Keep going.
Well, I do think he said one thing that's very, very true. I'm taking this out of context, but at one point he said, hiring Buff Bagwell isn't going to save TNA. I agree with that 100%. I don't think that needs to be a debate. But I think it's a testament to sort of how some wrestlers that never really made it to the top can just do this. And do they? I don't get it. Do they do this for exposure? Because I mean, everybody's talking about it. We're talking about it right now. Or is there an actual legitimate motive that they feel passionate for?
When I was reading through this, the name franchise Shane Douglas just kept screaming in my head. Like, this kind of feels like something he would do. Like that time where he was on Raw and had his pseudo ECW movement that nobody cared about.
Juan, get to the good stuff. You gotta talk about the good stuff.
What's the good stuff?
There's a lot. Wait.
The stuff about him and John Cena, specifically.
Okay, so one of the things that he also mentioned is John Cena. So I'm going to read this because, I mean, it's Buff Bagwell. I don't really think everybody wakes up in the morning thinking, what's Buff Bagwell up to now? Can't say that fucking name.
Unless you pay for the right amount of money, and then you know exactly what he's up to.
Exactly. And if he is the stuff. He said that he doesn't think he's a Rock, but I don't think he is a Sting. I don't think he's a Goldberg. I don't think he's really Stone Cold. The comparisons here are just really...
Is he talking about Punk? Oh no, he's talking about Cena.
Yeah,
Wait, who's he
Cena.
talking
Cena,
about in this
yeah.
episode? Okay.
He's Cena.
episode. Yeah, he's talking about Cena. But I think he's bigger than above Bagwell. I really do. And then he says, I really do. Now, mainly because of the way they pushed him, I give him credit than being bigger than me. I'm directly reading this because otherwise, most of you won't believe me. When you lay out the facts, no, he's not as big as The Rock. No, he's not as big as Stone Cold. No, he's not as big as these other guys I'm talking about. Then again, you give me the same push, I think I would be just as big as John Cena.
Now, I don't. Maybe I'm the wrong one here, but can you see Buff Bagwell breaking Make-A-Wish Foundation records? 'Cause I don't about that.
Well, he makes wishes come true for about $8,000 a weekend. That's about all I can say. I'm not sure it's a good wish or a nightmare, but it's just there's not a lot more to talk about this really, but it's just outrageous how some guys can just be so egotistical. I mean, holy crap, man, really?
It's like the guy is completely delusional. If you think about it, like where he says, "Oh yeah, I think Cena's bigger than a Buff Bagwell." Yeah, you know who else is bigger than a Buff Bagwell? About Funaki, Taka Michinoku. They are bigger than Buff Bagwell.
The thing that really bugged me most about that whole thing was how he talked about, like, not enough big guys in wrestling. Like, that's a fight. He almost he set wrestling about 5 years back, 10 years back with that one comment. Because that's just not true anymore. You don't need to be this really big guy to be a great wrestler in the WWE. So people need to stop saying that. Just because you're a big guy yourself doesn't mean that that's the de facto thing that needs to happen.
I think CM Punk being, during his tenure, being the number 2 merchandise seller speaks for itself on that one.
Exactly, and you should look back at history. Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, even Stone Cold. Stone Cold wasn't 6'6", 300 pounds. There's all these guys that certainly broke the mold, paved the way. HBK, I can go on. So Buff Bagwell. So if you do want to check out something delicious about Buff Bagwell, just check out the Slamboree 2000 poster. The debut of the duck face. That's all you need to know. So another guy that I was a big fan of. He had a pretty good time. He made his own spotlight. We are talking about Zack Ryder. See True Long Island story. He was on top of the world. He actually became U.S. champion, and then everything just couldn't crash down any harder. Literally, when he was on a wheelchair, and ever since that point, everything just went crashing down, literally, because the choke slam, everything was just terrible. Eve, holy crap, this guy went from having the best year of his career to the worst 2 years of his career. Then out of nowhere, he comes out with a new YouTube show, talking very, very serious, called Zack Ryder's Last Resort. If you haven't checked it out, just search Zack Ryder's Last Resort on YouTube. It'll be there. He talks about the fact that he's got nothing to lose. He didn't just come into the WWE to become a wrestler. He wanted to get to the top. He's not satisfied with just collecting a paycheck, and I applaud him for being that honest. But it's too little, too late. Am I the only one? And this is coming from a guy, I was saying, for the record, I was saying woo woo woo, you know it, and you guys know that, 2 years before he ever said that on TV. 2 years. And I'm saying it's too little too late.
I don't think there's a place for the Ryder revolution anymore, just because of everything that Daniel Bryan has going on. I don't think there's any hope in hell that those two things can coexist. And I don't know if it's true. I'm not a backstage person, but apparently a lot of people hate Zack Ryder backstage because of the whole internet thing he did for himself. He's not like a WWE made guy. He went it for himself. So couldn't this just be a way for them to hate him a little more at the end of the day?
At this point, the guy has absolutely nothing to lose. He's never on TV unless it's superstars. So I commend him. I actually do. Because I feel like he has absolutely nothing to lose. Why not go out there, speak your mind?
He could be on WrestleMania. He could get eliminated in a second during the Battle Royal.
He probably will. But I actually commend the guy for going off, doing his own thing again, not relying on WWE, because the guy was not getting any time. So, you know what? If he's got to get himself over again, then so be it. I mean, the guy's frustrations, you can see through it in the way that he speaks, and sometimes that's led to great things. So I think he does need a more serious approach to his character. So I think this is a good start for him, and I hope it leads somewhere, because if the guy's got the passion and the will to do it, then I think he can go places.
And now, honestly, now that we listen to the John Cena podcast, the one that Stone Cold interviewed him, it makes a lot of sense why John Cena supported Zack Ryder a lot. Think back to his Central Island story videos. Zack Ryder would John Cena would mention Zack Ryder on Raw. And in that podcast, Cena said, guys just can't be so afraid to speak out, to go against the machine. Here's the first guy that probably did it in a long-ass while. And I still think he's a big part of why the WWE YouTube channel is a lot better than it was before. So once again, I applaud him for that. The problem, I think, is that ever since he went over, he never transitioned. His character never grew. He was still the guy that was supposed to be pushed. And it's like, dude, you have the ball. Like, you don't need to be that guy anymore. You can move on. And the people sort of caught on that, and then it went sour. So I do think it's cool that he's doing it. Keep doing it. I don't know if it'll lead to something, but at least for me as a fan, it's entertaining. So let's just see where it goes. So we actually have a question on YouTube that I want Ryan to check out. So the floor is yours, man.
Thanks, Juan. You know what? I'll give you a little break. Anyway, this YouTube question comes from Ant Devane. And first he mentions that he is a huge Attitude Era fan and also a fan of the show. And he still believes that that was the best era in professional wrestling. And he wants to know what we think went wrong with the WWE and what particular time this occurred and maybe some other various reasons. Basically, where did they go wrong? Juan, you can start us off.
No, and he also brings up a pretty good point, which is that he thinks it's more catered to kids now. And I think that in itself basically answers the question. Kids equals money. Kids makes parents want to buy stuff. Parents have to go to the show. So parents and the kids buy tickets to the show. They make more money, buy more shirts. That's probably why, at least for me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, really, I think it's the reason why Kofi Kingston is still around. Like, we look at a guy like Kofi Kingston and be like, yeah, he hasn't really done much, but like every single interview you hear with a wrestler, they're saying like, yeah, the kids love Kofi Kingston and they just don't get it. So
poor Kofi Kingston, that's the only reason he's around.
Did I say only? I didn't mean
that. That's all right. That's all right. I'm going to add to that once Juan composes himself. You all right there, Juan?
I'm good.
Okay. So to add to what you guys were saying is they have to sort of hit the reset button every decade or so to get that new crop of fans. It's just like how, companies like Budweiser and Marlboro used to have their mascots because they were trying to appeal to young kids. And so when they grew up, they would use their products. And even though that's bad, wrestling isn't that evil, but it's still, you want to appeal to a younger audience so that they grow up and become lifelong fans of the product. So it's strategy. But at the same time, I think there is enough of the show to appeal to everybody. And also that, yes, the Attitude Era was great and everybody loves to talk about how awesome it is. But you also got to think that it was a reflection of the times. The 90s, think about the music that came out in the 90s and the TV shows like the Jerry Springer Show. You had Limp Bizkit and Korn and all those bands and Marilyn Manson, and they were all trying to be very controversial. Nowadays, everything's so much safer and PC, so that's why you're seeing this shift for WWE. They want more sponsors and everything, so they got to be more family friendly. So it is a reflection of the times. But I think there's enough to keep everybody interested. And maybe it loses some people, but for the most part, since we've been fans for so long, we stay with it too.
Exactly, and this doesn't just involve WWE, it's wrestling in general. Like, I've sort of brought up a couple times, I'm a cameraman and part of the production team for a company down here, and about 2 months ago, we had a wrestling match that was awesome. It was like a false count anywhere match. There were chairs, there was table spots. It was great. You can actually check it out online. But the problem was there was blood in it. Now, for us as wrestling fans, we were just like, oh, wow, that's going on. But then the next day, a few days, preceded sponsors just going, hey, that can't happen again. and we're like, crap. So, and that is the exact same scenario WWE probably faces. And if that's in a small company, independent company, we do have a televised show, so that's why. But imagine the pressure WWE has to have this content where if it's for kids, how come there's blood? Even on Raw, we didn't bring it up, but that Christian Sheamus match was brutal. At a lot of points, it was just like, wow. And you got to think, so at what point do the sponsors, the advertisers go, well, the kids like that, but the parents also got to enjoy the show because otherwise they may not buy a ticket. So it's a really tricky thing. And I think that the WWE has gotten to a point where they have a good, happy medium. Ryan, you were actually mentioning that even though it's not as edgy anymore, the match quality has gotten better. And I sort of want, can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Well, I was briefly watching last week an episode of Raw from 2001. I believe is the one where Vince declares that he had purchased WCW. So it was very end of the Attitude Era, just before WrestleMania 17. But what I really noticed was that there was way more emphasis on storyline and entrances and all of that over actual match quality at this time. A lot of the matches, aside from maybe the main event, were short. They didn't even do commercial breaks in between matches. It was just straight up, the match happened in a matter of minutes and it was over. And nowadays you watch wrestling and they give a lot of matches time. Granted, there's the 3 hours, but at the same time, even before they were doing the 3-hour shows, they were definitely giving more time for matches. And I think something even John Cena said in that Stone Cold podcast was they're shifting towards a bigger emphasis of what goes on in the ring and less about things that go on outside of the ring. So we want to thank you for tuning in this week. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are still in WrestleMania Overload this Friday. As Juan mentioned earlier, we are putting up our top 10 WrestleMania moments. It's going to be a 4-part series, and part 1 goes up this Friday. We also just put up a WrestleMania 10 review, and a WrestleMania 20 review is going up very soon. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at ByteThatCast. We tweet during Raw, we tweet during pay-per-views, we tweet during NXT sometimes, now that they air it Thursday nights. So hey, follow us on Twitter and join the conversation, as Michael Cole loves to say. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week.
iTunes, bitch.
Oh, we're on iTunes and Stitcher. Search Byte That. Bye.
Now I get to just enjoy the match. And it's kind of like Rick Steiner. It's kind of like Rick Steiner and the dogs barking in my background. I just get to just enjoy the whole experience itself of Triple H. Seriously. You guys can hear that, right? I just have to ask.
Yeah.
¡Cállense, puñeta!
Entra!
Entra.
Well, here's a front runner for the end of the show.
I actually had to mute. I had to actually mute my mic earlier because like people were coming upstairs. So if you
I already know
heard my sound
the
cut
end of the
out,
show thing.
we can't do this early, man.
The whole dog thing.
yes. Well, I thought we were doing very, very, very breaky, bishy,
that one
bishy,
can get
bishy.
pushed if necessary.
Holy fuck!
Yeah,
Stop
yeah.
barking!
Just grab a tennis ball and just throw it down the street.
But see that's exactly why I love the fact that it's predictable, because even though they basically let me just try it again with another point.
What can I do for you?
Oh, we clearly cannot record at this hour. Whatever. See, this ain't even fucking funny, man. We didn't even get
this
crust
is the
around
best.
here. Okay.
This whole segment is the ending. This whole thing is the ending. All the sounds.
Remix.
Okay.
Here we go. ¡Cállense, puñeta!